The opinions expressed on the radio program by the hosts, co-hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Gynesis Radio, www.gynesisradio.com, Gynesis Radio's owners, management, or affiliates.
Good evening. Welcome to GenesisRadio.com. My name is Kendall Stevenson. I'm the host of The Empowerment Show. The Empowerment Show was birthed from unity in the community. As we start every show, I like to give out my thanks and gratitude. So right now, I'm gracious to be in the space that I'm in. I'm gracious to work with people that are some of the best people in the world. So, and I always give my thanks to my boss, Mr. TP. Hello there, Mr. TP.
What's going on, buddy?
What's going on? All right, so we're going to start this show off today. We have a young man here, and his name is Deshaun Chacon, and he is considered to be a youth specialist. And what I mean by that is he has the ability to inspire young people towards positive growth and development. So, Mr. Chacon, without further ado, hello, how are you?
Hey, how's everything, Kendall? I just want to say thank you for having me. I think everything you're doing is basically wonderful, and especially connecting with the community. As Kendall mentioned, my name is Deshaun Chacon. I work for Pocono Service for Family and Children as the Youth Empowerment Service Coordinator/Recruiter.
All right, well, let me ask you, how would you describe the program? Or I know that you probably didn't initiate the program or develop the program, but how would you describe the program that you're engaged with?
So, Project Success is one of the programs I'm currently running, especially the Summer Youth Employment Program and also the Summer Education Camp. Now, these programs has been here for almost 20 years. That was created by one of the past directors of Pocono Service for Family and Children, and it's most wonderful thing ever that I'm able to join and I'm able to work with, and especially working with the community and the kids, because it's something that I feel like it impacts me and also impacts them to see what I could do for them in the future, see what I can do for them to mold them. Because some of the students or people that I work with or the participants, they're low income. They don't have that much help out there in the community. They don't have that much help to know what type of resources out there. So I do my best to give them that connection as much as I can, and then refer back to me from my past experience and say, okay, I know how it feels about education. I know how it feels about not knowing about how to apply for college, how to do trade or even entrepreneurship, which entrepreneurship is kind of new to me still. I'm still learning on that. But, teaching these kids, especially in a young age, and molding them to know what they want to do is so beneficial. And especially having that kid coming to me saying like, oh, I don't know exactly what I want to do for college, or I don't know exactly what I want to do with my life. And I go, okay, let's talk about that. This is what I have as resources. This is what connection I have. Let's see what we can use to utilize this for you.
So what strategies do you particularly use when you try to engage with the youth and the children?
So it depends, because for Project Success, those students are from ages 12 to 18. Then we have Summer Youth Employment Program, which is 14 to 21. And then we got Project Success Beyond, which is 18 to 24. Now, each students, I try to do either a CAS assess, which is basically testing their math and reading skill for workforce development, to teach how their math is, how their reading is, because I want to see if I can push into a certain training. Besides that, I also have conversations and sit down with them to see what is their mindset and aspects in the future. Because as I mentioned, some of them may not have parents that they have to look up to. They may have lose their parents in a young age. Some of them grew up with their grandparents and they have to check out all that stuff and learn as they go, and some of them may be struggling day by day and trying to find, food or knowledge. And that's what Project Success is. We feed the families, we feed the students, we give them free food, we teach them knowledge, we, do our best to say, hey, what do you want to learn? And I could bring the guest speaker and teach you that. So, for example, one event that we have for Project Success was about criminal justice. And when they talk about criminal justice, I ask the students, I'm like, what do you know about criminal justice? What do you know about the jobs? And they're like, oh, I know you could become a cop or a lawyer. And I'm like, okay, what else? Like, there's more under the umbrella that you should learn about. And thankfully, I still have a great connection with my professor at Northampton Community College and also East Stroudsburg University, who came over, speak to my students. She brought a guest speaker who was a forensic scientist and spoke about his story and about his education and his process. And then I got a detective from Pocono Regional to talk about his education, how he was brought up to become, a detective himself. So I try to utilize all the information the students could give me, because Project Success is basically them telling me what to do and telling me like, oh, I want to learn about X, Y, and Z. Can you possibly bring that speaker with you? And I said yes, because I'm not there to teach them. I'm not there to be the teacher for them. They're the one that's telling me like, hey, I want this knowledge. I want to learn about, all this stuff. What can you do to help me out with this? And, I do my research as I can.
Seems like you do a lot of research and you're very resourceful. That's what I see.
Yeah, I try to keep my connections as much as I can, because, as I said, my background in education wasn't the beneficial thing. I didn't expect education was the best part for me. I was more of like, oh, I'm gonna finish high school or drop out of high school originally and just try to build myself up. But that didn't work out quite as planned. So thankfully, I did have my parents who push me as much as they can to say, hey, you need to get an education, you need to study hard, you need to, at least get a college degree, at least a bachelor's, and, get your foot at the door to help out other people and find your passion. Because, as I said, criminal justice was, something of my passion to become a lawyer, but unfortunately it didn't work out. I tried to become a police officer, but COVID happened, and then that's when I started working in Carilling for 2 years, and then I transferred to Pocono Service for Family and Children.
Just want to ask you a question. I mean, it's a little bit off track.
Yeah.
Your last name, your name. Where does it come from?
So Chacon is from my father, who's a Hondurian, and my first name, Deshaun, is from one of the lists that my mom's chose. That's from my father's friend, who's Yugoslavian. So, as I said and mentioned, my mom wants a very unique name. She didn't want something that anybody has. So Deshaun was a Yugoslavian name that she's like, that's the one that I want my son to have. And for my sister, she has a Hawaiian name, and I believe my brother is Yugoslavian as well. But my mom is always.
I'm sure a lot of people mistake you for being Hawaiian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I first saw you, I did exactly that. I had to take a second look. You're so mild mannered, and it's when you're a big guy, throws people off at times, I guess. Let me ask you, economically, and their social differences amongst the youth that you work with. How do you deal with that? What is that about?
So, working with the low income, it brings me back to my past, because I remember seeing my parents struggle living paycheck by paycheck. And, I know how it feels to waiting for that next meal. I know how it feels to learn that my parents can give me those little gifts and stuff because they need to pay for a bill. So when it comes to the students, I try to be that big brother, big sister, or try to be that somebody that they could look up to, or a sibling they could look up to. And when they tell me like, oh, we weren't able to eat because of this, and this, I'm like, okay, when the session finished from this today, take the food and make sure you share with your family, make sure you eat it as much as you can. If you need more, let me know. I could get you more research. I could tell you to talk to a church, go from there. Besides that, the culture-wise, thankfully, I have connection from ESU. East Stroudsburg University is the fantastic, college that I've been to, and thankfully, I have a wonderful, wonderful connection with them. And I brought somebody who was from the Diversity and Multicultural Office, who's the administrator there, and she talked to the students and tell them like, diversity bingo or take a walk. which is basically saying that they give you a bunch of questions and say, take a step if you have this, which one of the questions like, if you have parents that look up to you, if you have parents that ask for help, if you have anybody to tell you that you're beautiful, or you're pretty, or that supports you for your dreams. And, some of the students were stepping up, and then I noticed some of the students were stepping up and they were behind the line. And, they have that face of like, wow, I didn't know I'm that different from other people. I didn't know that, they have a better life than me. And that's when I talk to the students. I'm like, okay, what do we see the difference here? And obviously there were some sad conversations that we had to talk about reality, because I had to bring back to them saying that, some of them are from PA. Me, myself, I'm from New York originally. So I told them like my story. When I'm in New York, sometimes I go to stores and some of the people in the store look at me and say, okay, I got to keep an eye on this person because I don't know who's going to be stealing. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that because I have no reason to. I'm here to purchase an item from the store, but because you want to act and interact that way, I have no reason to purchase anything. I need to walk away and not, have any issues. Or sometimes there's one time that I tried to help out a lady, and she just grabbed her bag and said, no, thank you. And she was pushing up like a laundry bag up the stairs. And I was like, oh, she's elderly. Let me help her out. But she was more afraid of me because of the way I look. So I'm just like, oh, okay.
Well, you're a pretty big guy there. So, how do you deal with the children that are like resistant? They give you a hard time,
So thankfully, I don't have that much students that are resistant. I do have some that are, I want to call them knuckleheads, because they like to, have fun, talk loud, not listen to the guest speakers, like to make jokes and all that stuff. But, it's not me going to them, hey, knock it out, don't do that, listen to the guest speakers. Me more taking them out, talk to them, seeing like why they're acting that way. What do they need to in order for me to say, okay, let me give you my attention for the moment so the other kids can pay attention to the guest speaker and get that knowledge. So I do as much as I can to utilize like the knowledge I have to say, let's take a step back, let's listen to what you need and see if I can provide that to you, because I don't want you to feel like you're not getting your attention, because that's how some of the kids are. And the kids are like, oh, nobody's paying attention to me, I want to get attention, so I gotta make noise and get that stares in the eyes. And at times it does work. Some of the kids do follow their reaction, but sometimes it's just me stepping down with them and have a talk with them. And some of them, they need either a male perspective or a female perspective. And thank God I have somebody as a coworker that helps me out gratefully.
Yeah, it's good to have a coworker.
Oh yeah, because I can't tell you, my memory has been going and going on, because doing so much paperwork and documents is more like I use that memory for now. Once I finish it, I delete it, and then I forget it. And then when it comes to learning the people's names and all that stuff, me talking to so many people, I'm just like, I forget your name, but I know your face. So
do any of the kids ever get violent?
No, none of them ever get violent. It's just more just, let's say I have two students who for some reason in school they react a different way, and then in the project success they act the other way. And one of the students told me is that, oh, the student doesn't have friends in school because X, Y, and Z, but here I'm friends with him. And I told him, like, why do you do that? Might as well try to build a community with him and then back him up, because no matter what, project success is basically to build a family, is to, help one another and make sure you're not getting bullied, I'm not getting bullied. And if you do see me getting bullied, please stand up for me and, make sure like you say something. You see something, say something. So, I always try to bring that perspective. Like when you're in project success, you're one big family, your brothers and sisters, I even bring the parents too, and I tell them like, if you have somebody that you want to invite to this event and learn something yourself too, because you may not know it, you're more than welcome to. Because parents too, they may not have the knowledge. So
do you have interaction with the teachers and social workers as well?
So I do work with counselors, school counselors, and social workers, not quite often, just once in a while, because I do have some like school districts I'm working with through work experience on summer youth employment program. Some of them I do work with alongside with Project Success to help me out to bring some students more to our sessions, because back then, before COVID had messed up a lot of things, we used to have almost 200 to 150, almost top 200 students into our sessions. Now our highest number is 60 to 70, sometimes fluctuating to 15 to 20. So there's ups and downs, and especially PA with the weather, the snow will kill us too, because our last session, me myself, I didn't want to cancel it. I didn't want to, have the session closed because I had a financial person coming in to talk to the students and teach them how to budget. Because once Project Success finishes the summer youth employment program, and that's when the students learn how to make money, how to earn a certain amount, how to save it, and either build a resume because they're going to be working in different locations, and also how to build communication skills, how to build that type of skill set they may not use because they're so used to being on their phones and not talking face to face. So, that session I didn't want to cancel because I think it would have been beneficial, but thankfully I'm pushing it back to March 2nd. And, with the snow and with people traveling from like Tobyhanna, I need to put that in consideration to make sure the parents are safe, the kids are safe, and I don't want no accidents happening because that's something I really have like an aspect of that.
Yeah, they call it bipolar weather.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, you don't know what it's going to be from one day to day.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the children again, I was going to go back to the learning thing. Do you teach them how to invest money?
So, me myself, I don't because I don't have that much knowledge into that thing. But I'm hoping when I have somebody from PNC come in to speak, let's teach them how to invest, let's teach them how to, save money. Because when we did SYAP last year, and I talked to some of the students and say, "Hey, what do you do with all that money?" First, well, some of them just put their head down, don't even give me eye contact, and some of them go, "Oh, I spend it on food, I spend it on clothes, I spend it on video games," and I'm like, "Okay," and I'm like, "Do you save any money? Because eventually you want to go to college, eventually you want to give a gift to your parents for Valentine's, Christmas, and all that stuff. So that's something that you want to do." And then I'm so happy for this one student that I had that raised her hand and she's like, "Oh, I'm already saving it for my college fund. So, I want to get ready for college and not to be in debt." And that was the proudest moment I could ever have because she'd been in our sessions for 5 or 6 times a year. And, she'd been through Head Start. She'd been through infant and toddler program. So she'd been with us for almost 20 plus years and just going through us by section, because infant and toddler is basically the first start for them. Then it's Head Start, and then it's Project Success, Summer Youth Employment Program, Summer Education Camp, and it keeps on going cycle after cycle. So having those students to come back and still continue with us and seeing them grow, it's fantastic. And seeing them especially mature, them maturing to where they were in the beginning is a fantastic sight to see. Like, it's honestly, it feels like I'm the parent myself, even though I don't want to have kids yet. I'm kind of too young for that. But, feeling that type of achievement to see them like that is fantastic. It's always beneficial.
All right. When the kids come to you,
yeah,
and these kids may have a serious problem or some sort of problem, and you counsel them and you talk to them, is this a private thing? Is the Privacy Act involved, or your confidentiality? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so a few situations I have when, like, for example, when I told you about the diversity and we have for Project Success, I have one of the participants who came out of class and basically pulled me to the side because I was outside setting up the lunch for them. And I had my coworker inside, making sure everything was running smoothly and working on everything. But when she pulled me to the side, she basically said that she didn't feel comfortable to be in that class at the moment. And she had answered a question that one of the speakers had mentioned and got emotional because in her past, and I believe not in the past, but still to this day, she's being bullied because of the way she looks, because of the way that she speaks, because she has like a little bit of a lisp and, her looks. And I told her, and I gave her like my backstory, because as you mentioned, I'm a big guy, but in middle school, it was quite hard to, being so big and tall because everybody called me a giant, and being big, they didn't call me big, they called me fat. So because of that, I was like, I try to connect with her and tell her, like, I know how you feel, I know how this, may seem, but at the moment, use this criticism as a positive way because you don't know how your future is going to be and how they're going to be in the future. Because you could be successful, you could be the best person, you could outdo them no matter what, and they could be sitting down twiddling their thumbs. Because come on, if you could beat your own bully by your success and your stories, that's the best feeling.
Yeah, well, when I was growing up, there were other ways to deal with bullies.
Yeah, I know. Back then for me it was different, but for this generation, I'm trying to, take away from violence and not tell. I'd rather have them use their words as violence than their, fists. Because for me, as I said, I grew up differently. Education wasn't my main priority, but a lot of things changed, thankfully, for my parents.
How much education do you need to do what you do?
So for me, I need a bachelor's degree in order to do what I do. You don't, some positions you could just use a high school degree, but it's more beneficial for you to get a bachelor's. I am currently working on a master's just to have that, but I'm taking a break because when I first started, I started during when I was working for CareerLink,
Right.
and I was doing CareerLink in the morning, then I was doing classes, and then I was doing graduate assistant, and basically it was way too much for me and too stressful and not enough sleep because when I go to work the next day, I'm half awake, half asleep, and talking to the participants like that, it wasn't a beneficial thing.
I could just tell you the master's degree program is basically a lot of research.
Yeah, I thought I was done with the writing once I finished my undergrad, but I wasn't. There's a lot more writing intensive to do.
Oh, when you get in your master's, you're talking about 30, 33 pages, 40 pages. That's a regular paper.
No, I know. Because even for my final class, I had to write a research document that was about 50 pages. And I had to do graphing, I had to do, scholarship writing and all that stuff. And it was stressful. I think that was the main time or the first time I had my own anxiety attack. And I never had that before. And me experience that was very scary. So let me ask you, all the education, everything that you use, do you use this in the program as far as technology? Like, how do you incorporate what you've learned in today's world, in today's technology? How do you do that? So when you mention technology, do you mean about like Instagram, Snapchat,
Yeah,
social media?
Social media.
So what I usually do is I utilize Canva. Canva is one of the best things that I use because they help me make flyers for my events. And for social media, I use Instagram and Facebook because Instagram is something that, all the students that I know uses the most often. Now I try to use TikTok, but TikTok is more, I need to learn that. And some of the students make fun of me because they're like, why are you using TikTok? You're not around that age to be using that. I'm like, ouch. That kind of hurts because, I believe I'm still young, but, students are students and they know how to hurt you one way or another. But I try to utilize as much as I can with Instagram, Facebook, and, besides using the social media, I try to use word of mouth because that's, I believe, one of the best ways.
Are you on social media?
Yes.
Well, what is your, how do I find you?
If you look on Instagram, it's going to be YES Monroe County, and then Facebook should be the same. Now, the other thing is, on the top of the head, some of the social media handlers I may not know quite well because I do it once in a while. My coworker does most of the social media because she knows how to type better and follow the prompter for the kids. Because with me, I'm more of like, hey, there's an event here. Make sure you invite your friends and family. But with her, she's like, oh, make it more spontaneous and awesome and more directed for the younger kids. Because with me, I'm more of like, by the book rules and regulation and try to follow the things and not that much of like that. I don't know how to mention fun, I guess, when it comes to writing some things on Instagram. I'm more serious because I don't utilize Instagram myself, even as well as the younger age, because I didn't find social media like that beneficial. I like communication with mouth, seeing you, talking to you, and all that, and using Instagram, Facebook, or
I just learned outside they call it IG now. It's not Instagram. Everything is an acronym. It's funny. So let me ask you: do you incorporate feedback from the youth?
Yes, that's the part that I tell the students when there's a new student that joins Project Success. I tell them that I'm not here to be the teacher for you. I'm not here to basically tell you what to do or how to do it. I'm more here to learn what you want me to do. So that's why I tell the students every time we have a session, I ask them their opinion. How was the speaker? Do you enjoy the speaker? Would you want them back? Would you want to learn more knowledge from them? Is it something that you want to see next year, or do you want me to switch over? And some of them has loud voices that will say, "Oh, I want to talk about drop shipping. Oh, I want to talk about investments, as you mentioned. I want to talk about entrepreneurship. Oh, I want to talk about, CDLA, HVAC, those type of trainings, or they talk about college.
Right.
So, every time they give me feedback, I go, okay, who do I know that can talk about the subject? Because me, myself, I'm not an expert in everything. So I can't say, oh, yeah, let's talk about X, Y, and Z and then write down everything. I'd rather have somebody who's done it for 10 plus years and could say everything like back of their hand.
Do you encourage these children to go to college?
So I encourage them to go to college. And if they don't want to go to college, I encourage them to do trade. Because me being for Pocono Service of Family and Children, I'm under the umbrella of Carrillion. So I work with Carrillion quite much, and they do more of the aspect of the trade. So when I have a student who say, oh, I don't want to do college, but I want to work and, not do the whole like 4 years of school, I'm like, okay, what type of work do you want to do? Is it something that's a high occupation or something that you want to do as an entrepreneur aspect? And thankfully, being working as an umbrella for Carrillion, I could, lead them there to say, oh, let's do CDLA, let's do HVAC, let's do building maintenance, let's do welding, automotive technology, anything in the medical field. We are now doing security analysis. But the only thing is, when it comes to trade and career link, you have to be 18 in order to do that. Since the students I talk to mostly is 12 to 18, some of the younger students, they're like, oh, I want to do that. And I tell them, like, I know you want to do that, but let's do a little bit more research. Let's finish high school. Let's make sure that once you finish high school, you find a direction you're going to college or trade school, and then come back and talk to me. Once you're of age of 18, that's when I can say, okay, let me give you this connection to this person. Let me give you this connection from that person. And for college too, as I said, for college, I try to bring guest speakers from ESU. I try to bring guest speakers from Northampton Community College as well, because graduating for those both schools, as I said, I try to keep a connection with everybody to make sure I can utilize them for my students and make sure the students know that if they need any referral letters, if they need any help to do anything about college, like financial aid, or know how to do register for classes, they know who to come to, and I could bring them a connection from that. So even last year, I got vice president of ESU to come over and talk to the students, and it was such a fantastic session because all the students were so engaged, asking questions. That was the first time I ever had the students talk so much. I was like, okay, we went over our time because usually we finish around 12. That day we finished around 2 and quarter to 3. So it was phenomenal.
Have you ever met Kenneth Long?
Yes. Fantastic person.
Fantastic person.
Yeah.
I've got an opportunity to meet him. I've even got the opportunity to take pictures of him.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. He's the.
Have you been there for the inauguration?
Yeah, I was there at the inauguration. I shot the inauguration. So.
Oh.
It was pretty cool.
So we probably crossed paths quite some time.
We might have. we might have. I go to most of the events, and yeah, I got to be around because this show is a community show. So I have to be out in the community. This is how I found you.
Yeah.
I have to be out in the community to talk to the people in the community. So I have to be involved with the community in order to get the guests and the type of people that I need and the type of expertise that's needed in order to inform the community. So how do you ensure the well-being of the youth, the children?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, how do you secure them? You got two guys that want to be in conflict with each other, and I mean, they want to get it on. How do you secure their safety?
So there never been a conflict where they got any physical altercations, more verbal altercations. But when that happens, we usually have my coworker help me and separate them. And as I said, we sit down and have a conversation because the first thing we always do is make sure we speak. Before we get into an actual physical altercation, because you may misheard the person saying one thing, you may misheard somebody say another thing. Is always he said, she said, and I always want to make sure both of them get their side of the story and both of them have their voices heard, because right. I don't want them to be like, oh, he said this and that, and then this person said that, but I want to know what's a true story. And then when I get both of the stories, I sit them down and then try to talk to them and saying, hey, this is what you guys told me. This is what I found out in the middle part. Can we, talk it out between both of y'all and see if we can come to an agreement that we're going to be continuing to be nice, right. Not have any competition, because sometimes it's competition. And, and as I said, we're becoming a big family. Brothers and sisters or brother to brother, they can always have, butt heads is always happening in the family no matter what. But at the end, we're all friends and families. We have to respect one another. We have to respect each other's opinion and make sure we talk it out. Because yes, he may say one thing and another thing, and it may not agree to your terms or to your views. But then you have to talk it out to make sure you understand why. Because maybe the parents brought them up one way, and the other parents brought this. So you always got to find a middle ground with them and make sure they're heard out. So I never wanted the kids to get so scared to the point that they don't want to talk to me. I want them to be as open as they can to me and make sure their voices are being heard. And especially, as I mentioned, I'm thankful to have a female coworker, because sometimes the females, they don't want to talk to me because they're like, you're a guy, why would I talk to you about this? And I'm like, okay, I understand that. Let me talk to my coworker and have her talk to you. And then with the males the same way. I don't want to talk to her because she's a girl. Why would I talk to her? I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, all right. And then some of them, they don't really care, the gender wise, But I always try to accommodate for the students. I always try to do my best to make them feel secure, feel happy, feel safe in our area, because it's not, I don't want them to come here and be like, oh, I don't want to come here because, that person is there. No, that's not the case. I want you to be all friends and families.
All right. So let me ask you, can you discuss a time when you had to deal with any difficult parents? I'm just going back to the parent thing.
So sometimes I do have parents may heard about our program and think it's one thing. And when I explain to it, they're like, oh no, but that's not what I heard about this. So for example, Project Success, there's a few altercations I have with some parents that, when they come in, they don't come with their children. And they're going, oh, but I didn't know this was a children program. I thought this was more for an adult. And I told them, like, I do apologize, because sometimes when you make flyers in a rush, you forget to put the age, you forget to put the description. And, that happens to me once in a while. And, they get mad about that. And I told them, like, look, you're more than welcome to continue being with us. You're more than welcome to listen to our speaker. There's no issue. It's just, I hope that next time you visit, bring your kids. Now, doing career link too, when it comes to doing deployments for the summer youth employment program, there is some issues because some parents may be working during the summer, both of the parents, and they don't have no time to come to do the appointment. Because when it comes for the summer youth employment program, I have to ask for certain documents for them to be, registered for the program, because it's a government funded program.
Right.
And there's a lot of rules and regulation when it comes to the paperwork, because I got to do I-9s, I got to do W-4s, because they're technically considered as a county worker. So, I have to work with the schedule with the parents, and some parents will get aggravated when I say, okay, I can't do it at this time because the office is closed, unfortunately. So, I always have to try to accommodate, and, some of my accommodations, like coming at the office at 6 a.m. when nobody's there, but I could, work with the parents and make sure they could do that. Or I have some parents who don't want to take the students out of school just to do the SYEP program and do the paperwork. And as I said, I try to accommodate as much as I can. I give them a late note, I give them a absence note, and I do my best to make sure the parents are happy at the end of the session or end of employment, and the student is happy too.
How do you deal with children that have mental health?
So right now, I'm working with a school district that I'm doing work experience with, and all the students are above the age of 21.
Right.
So mental health, depending on which you're talking about, it's like on the spectrum, you mean?
Well,
or
you may have some kids that are involved in the crises.
Yeah.
And they're young people, but they're mentally challenged. Like maybe a kid that's bipolar.
Oh, okay. So that part, I try my best to work around them and, try to accommodate them and understand what they need and their help. But as I said, I'm not an expert that much to those type of accommodation. I always try to see if I could get them like a mental health service and bring somebody as a guest speaker to accommodate them even more, or even refer them to the program of service for family and children, because we do have a mental health worker, we do have a family advocate, and all that stuff to help them out. Because my knowledge could go as long as I can, but when it comes to those aspects, I do my best to help. I do my best to understand. I try to study more to see what I can do to accommodate them. But, everybody has their different learning skills, and everybody has their different aspects of how to work with that. And as you mentioned, like bipolar, I believe I have only one student that I work with like that.
Mm-hmm.
And with her, it was more of like she had an issue of learning. So she didn't want to learn, and that's when she gets pissed or mad or didn't want to like focus with me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I try to make learning more fun for her to bring her evolving with it, or tell her, hey, instead of sitting down and be on your phone, because that's the thing that she didn't want to pay attention. She goes on her phone. I tell her, help me out, give out documents, paperwork, talk to the guest speaker. Sometimes we give our guest speaker a plaque,
Mm-hmm.
and I tell them like, here, you give the guest speaker the plaque, tell them thank you and all that, and that's when they get more active and they've been more interactive with that and go like, oh wow, like he's actually want me to help him out, and that's something no teacher ever wants me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing that makes the student go, I want to be in this program. I'm happy to be in this program because they're letting me be myself and learning new things. Because some of them, they're more like, I'd rather be quiet when the speaker's here and they don't ask questions. And I always tell them, like, why you guys don't ask questions? Like, oh, I'm a little shy. I sometimes don't want to ask the dumb questions. I'm like, there's no dumb questions. It's better to ask something or even ask for help or opinion because you don't know what the answer, the outcome may be. So might as well just ask as much questions as you want and then see what's the outcome. You see, it could be a positive thing. And if the person said, oh, no, that's not how it goes, learn why it doesn't go that way. It's always better to learn things to expand your mind.
That sounds absolutely right. You had to deal with any children with substance abuse?
No, that part I have not, thankfully. But hearing those happen in the news from other school districts, it does hurts my heart, unfortunately, because you know substance abuse, especially from being in New York, I had to see that through my childhood,
Mm-hmm.
and I had lost a few friends along the way because of that. And I'm grateful that I don't have to deal with that with our children. And I'm seriously, I'm so grateful for that because it hurt me when I was younger and had to experience losing a friend because they got overdose on some sort of drug. So, knowing my kids are safe and they have good peers around them, fantastic. But thankfully, I have not touched into that.
It's great that you refer to them as your kids.
Yeah, ironically saying, as I mentioned, I don't want to have kids yet because I'm quite young and I'm not ready for that. And I'd rather finish my master's degree, have a good supportive system to, financially and mentally. But, working with the kids is just fantastic because I always see myself as I was younger
Mm-hmm.
to think about if I have somebody who was me back then, I think my product would have been better. And if I would have guidance for like education more, I think it would have been more quicker and faster. Because unfortunately for me, it took me a while to appreciate education and appreciate what it means to have a college degree or what it means to know how to ask for help and not to be quiet. Because for me, I was such a silent kid in middle school, and I never asked my teachers for help. I never asked for any additional things, and that brought me, it took me back. It didn't help me understand school more often, and it didn't help me to achieve greater things. And thankfully, when I got here to PA, that's when I turned a new leaf and asked for help. I, switch a lot of things. So every time when I'm doing something for the kids, it's more of like I'm trying to give my experience to them and telling them my story because my story is quite long. I'm willing to share it if you want me to.
That's up to you, young man. We're here. It's your time. Your time.
It's one of those things that I want the kids to learn because for me, when it comes to school, I didn't think school was all that. I think it was more of a joke because it was more of like I was street smart than book smart.
Right.
So when I graduated high school, I went to Manhattan Community College back in New York.
DMCC.
Yep. And unfortunately, I didn't was into school to the point where I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be studying, let me be on top of everything. I was more into having partying and having fun. And it got to the point where I received a documentation from my advisor who I never met at all. Nobody has come to me and telling me, hey, your grades are not doing well, you got to pick it up. And they're basically stating on the letter that unfortunately, because of my GPA being so low and not meeting the standard of the college, I had to be left from school or kicked out from school.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, okay. And that's when I was like, okay, let me go find a job because I got to pay back to college because college is not free. And once they find out that you finished school, they're going to come and chase you and say, hey, you owe us this money. So thankfully for my parents, they helped me pay for the college, and then I helped them pay in the back of a little bit with the bills from the job that I did. But then when I come here to PA, I try to go to East Stroudsburg University. And as I said, being street smart, I didn't know what a GPA means and what it stands for or what the important was. So when I went to ESU, that's when I finally learned what my GPA was. So when they told me the average GPA for ESU is a 2.5, I don't know if it's still the same. I graduated 4 years ago. But for me, I had a 0.82
Mm.
GPA. So when I found out about that, it brought me back to middle school because middle school I had not the best phenomenal teachers. I had some teachers who told me blatantly straight up that I was special ed and I would not achieve anything in my life. And because of that, that I should just give up in school. That was my mind. That was my aspect of basically not want to continue school.
Right.
And as I said, I'm grateful for my parents because they're the one that pushed me a lot, and I'm grateful for my siblings too because they're the one that looked up to me. And everything I do it for my siblings, my parents, make them proud. And I also do it for my participants and kids and all that stuff. So from ESU to not getting into ESU, it was kind of heartbreaking because, as I said, I want to turn in a new leaf. I want to go back to education and make my parents proud to have that bachelor's degree and say, hey, I did it. So I went to Northampton Community College, and the best thing is I try to tell the school, here's $1,000. Can you pick up my GPA? Thinking street smart, that was going to work out. It didn't work out. They say no, you got to go to school to, get that grade up, and I'm like, what's the difference? There's no difference. I'm still paying the school. So when I went to Northampton Community College, that's when I started hustling and studying, doing as much as I can, asking questions, not stopping myself from getting distracted. Graduated with my associate degree in criminal justice with a 2.5.
Yeah.
Reapplied with ESU, and there I worked hard as much as I can. I got into many different clubs and organizations. I got many connections, and I asked for a lot of help, and I got my name known too. Because eventually I became the president of the Latin American Association.
Okay.
I became I believe, a park president for the Mocha Men of Color Association. I help out with the Alani, which is the graduation. And then when I finally graduated, my GPA, which, took me quite some time to do this, a lot of sweat and tears and anxiety attacks, as I mentioned, was a 4.0. So I became summa cum laude. Thankfully, one of the teachers basically told me that would I want to become a guest speaker or a commencement speaker for graduation. And I took the opportunity and ran with it. And seeing my parents being so happy that day and going to flashbacks when my parents were going like, how come you can't be that kid on stage talking and then me doing that, it felt so awesome. And I can't tell you how happy my parents were, how their smile was from grin to grin. And then being that big brother to my brother and sister, showing them that I achieved it, even though I was in the bottom of the barrel, scratching and digging out, that I could achieve this. And, as I said, being in ESU, being in NCC, and having such a wonderful support system, that pushed me so much to, making sure people know me, making sure that I could make connection with other people, and then be empathetic too, and be sympathized to the point that I know not everybody had the same road as I did. Some of them may have even worse roads and may have struggled even worse than I do. So that's why I always try to bring back from my past to the students and try to use my experience, my past with the students and say, what can I do to help you? And as I said, it was a long journey.
Well, my next question was, is this what motivated you in order to do what you do? Your life experiences?
Yes, I have to say, so as I said, when I started college, I wanted to become a criminal justice and become a lawyer. The reason I wanted to become a lawyer is because my parents, they were immigrants. So, I saw them doing the test. I saw them working so hard to become a citizen,
Mm-hmm.
and then them pushing me to get my education. Because as I said, I was a knucklehead myself. I was disrespectful to my parents,
Mm.
and thankfully they they have such big hearts that they allow me to stay living with them because they had so many opportunities to keep me young. So because of that, this motivates me to help out other people. So for Career Link, when I started with them, I did it for 2 years, and I was working with adults. And with adults, it was more of like, what can I do to help you to benefit your life in your future?
Mm.
Because some of them were coming from unemployment, some of them were coming from not working and not having high paying jobs. So they want to better themselves. So I was like, okay, let me help you out and see what type of program and training that we have to assist you with this. But it got to the point that working with adults is kind of hard and difficult because some of them doesn't have that mindset like I did, where it's like, I want to continue and push myself to do better. Some of them was like, oh, I got the money now, I got the grant, I can do whatever I want and not go to school, and then lose that grant, and they come back to me and say, hey, can I try to do this again? And unfortunately, you can't. It's one of those like one time, one shot deals.
Right.
And then when you finish, let's say 5 years or 8 years later, that's when you can come back. But by then, who knows what opportunity you did? And by then, who knows what type of jobs you did? So, working for Careerling and working with adults, I kind of want to switch that and go with the younger kids because I felt like it was more better because I could mold them younger.
Mm-hmm.
I could teach them things in a younger age and then have them eventually understand that everything I'm teaching them is going to be beneficial. So everything I did in my past to now motivate me so much because it's like without those experiences, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And without everything that happened to me and all the connection and all the people I met in my life, I'm 100% grateful for meeting them, no matter how big of an impact or how little of an impact they are. Because everything I learned, I'm trying to give it to my kids. I'm trying to teach them everything that I learned and teach them all the positive and negatives that I learned in my life.
I think there's a saying, it's easier to teach a child than it is to fix a broken man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it's cool, right?
Yeah.
Which I think it is. It's easier to teach a child. You got a broken man. I mean, that's not so easy to fix at times.
No.
So, how do you measure success with your program?
So the way we measure success is basically, as I mentioned, some of the students have been with us for almost 10 to 20 plus years. So the way I measure it is with the WUFU application that I have them sign up with, and every time they do the WUFU application, it shows me what grade level they're in. It shows me what they've been doing in the past because I have documentation of that and I have files on them as well, stating that they've been in the program this year and the past year. And each step they do is basically they're learning more for their resume. Each step they do, they're learning more about this trade and this opportunity they have. So the WUFU is one of them. We have the ONET, is basically a test that I believe is more an assessment test.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interest and achievement test. So it tells me like what the students want to do and what type of program I could try to tie them to. And then especially the CASA test, which is basically testing their math and reading skill. So all those tests and all those little steps they have achieved, I document it and basically case note as much as I can to show their improvement, to show their maturity, to show them, even when I get the report cards, because that's one of the requirements for the SYP is seeing the report cards, seeing their grade level go up from 1 year to another year.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask them like what changed. They're like, oh, because I learned this from you guys, or I learned, what it means to be having good work ethics from you guys. That's what, changed them. And seeing, as I said, seeing those little glimpse in their eye is the best thing for me because it's something that, as I said, I wish I could have done in my past. I wish I had a mentor in my past to be, push me with education and push me how to learn about X, Y, and Z. So doing that for the kids right now is a blessing.
Yeah, it sure is, and we're very glad to have you in the community. Again, I want to ask you to let people know how they can get in contact with you, or they can look you up, or like if a child wants to be involved, or parents want to be involved, or maybe do you have volunteers or?
Yeah, so we do have our student volunteers, and when I say student volunteers, that means they've been in the Project Success Program or SYP for quite some years, and they basically know the flow already, so they come and help me out. So sometimes when I say, oh, hey, I need to go deal with one parent or one kid, can you check on the kids for me?
Mm-hmm.
They help me out. Now, if anybody want to contact me or want to search for me, they could send me an email. My email is dchacon@psfc.org. Again, it's dchacon@psfc.org. And then my phone number for the office is 570-620-2850, extension number 304. Again, it's 570-620-2850, extension number 304. And just ask for Deshaun in the office. And I can answer as much questions as you want. I can help your students, any age from 12 to 24. I could give them any programs and try to do my best to accommodate for you and help you as much as I can. Because, as I said, my main goal is to better our community, better our future students and future leaders, because I want to see them achieve things that I never done in my age and see them become successful, for them to come back and go, hey, you remember me? And now I'm, an NBA player or the president, or I done stocks and brokers and all that stuff. I want to have that experience for the kids to come back to me, because I do have one student that I'm so proud of him, that he came to me during my career link position, and he was just released from jail. He had a background, and fortunately, he was the first participant, the first person I ever had for career link, and I was having the best opportunity to help him out to gain his CDLA license.
Oh, okay.
And now, mind you, CDLA, it takes about a month. For him, it took almost, I want to say 3 to 4 months, because I had to push him. I had to motivate him. I had to tell him not to give up, because he was at the breaking point that he didn't understand how to answer the test.
Low self-esteem.
Yeah. And trust me, when it comes to test taking, I'm not a good test taker. I'm more of like, ask me the question and I can tell you what it is and give you a breakdown. But if you give me a test, I'm gonna look at the questions and look at the choices and be like, I don't know what this is. Like, I don't know how to do it. And with him, I push him. I try to motivate him. And thankfully, he gained his CDLA. He became a truck driver for quite some years, and I'm still friends with him to this day. And he just told me and informed me that he's now a trainer for CDLA.
Oh, okay. Well, along with giving a motivation, do you like maybe step in as a tutor or give him some training to help him out?
So with the training, are you talking about training for trade or training for, like, let's say resume writing?
Training to take a test.
Training to take a test. So,
because the CDL test is a written exam. And I'm just wondering if you deal with people like this young man, do you deal with other people that have learning disabilities? And if so, how?
Once in a while, I do have some students who come to me having learning disabilities for like test takings. And the way I try to accommodate with them or try to teach them is the way I learn. So the way I learn is somehow, I won't say I have a photographic memory, because I don't anymore, sadly. But I try to teach them how to use, I forget what's the proper name, but word knowledge. So you use a word and try to use that with like a song or a hip hop song, and remind you like, photosynthesis is this.
Familiarity.
That, and try to teach them that, or do flashcards, but do like a fun flashcard, or do a flashcard with a reward. I try to tell them to do test taking or studying, because me myself, I hate studying. I never was a study person. I just more read the book and then go, okay, I know what the subject is. But as I said, once I get the piece of paper with the test, I'm going, everything goes gone. So that's why I try to teach them and saying like, hey, how can you do, what was the word they said? Familiarity?
Yeah, just to be familiar. You use words that are familiar with, you're familiarizing with something that you already know. It's like trying to learn how to speak a language.
Yeah.
So if I say agua and I keep saying agua, but I familiarize that with water, I have to make sure it fits the same. I familiarize it with something. In German, like a car is an auto, and it sounds like an automobile.
Yeah.
So I'm familiarizing the word auto with automobile, or Strasse, which is a street, and it sounds almost like street. So just taking something to familiarize it makes it easier for you to understand it. That's what it's mostly for, is for you to understand the work that's in front of you, or whatever's in front of you.
Yeah. So, and I also tell them to take their time, not to rush through a test, because sometimes when you get test anxiety, you just want to get it over with and just, move it out the side, and that's when you fail the most. That's what I used to do. I usually just rush the test and just choose random bubbles and just like, okay, this might work out. But I tell them, just take your time, read it, and read the questions as thoroughly as you can, and try to, learn what the test bubble is and see if that ties into the question. If it sounds like it ties into the question, that might be the answer. And, go from there. There's a lot of things they could do to de-stress themselves, not to be stressed out. Because, as I said, test anxiety is such it's hard. I still have it to this day, and
Well, I was a guy who had I grew up with learning disability, dyslexia. So it took me a while to even learn how to read and write. But I tell you, I wish I had somebody like you around when I was younger. I probably would have excelled a little bit more and a little quicker, because I had a teacher tell me, you need to learn how to push a broom, because that's probably all you're going to be doing in your life. It's all right, though, because when I got my first degree, I came back and said, this is my broom.
I'm telling you, I wish I could go back to middle school and tell the teacher. I'm not quite sure if she's still alive. I hope she is, but I wish one day she could see my face and see how much things I achieved, because it feels so fantastic to look back at my past and see where I am now, because I achieved so much great things. And as I said, I'm grateful for my parents. I'm 100% grateful for them, because without their encouragement and without them pushing me constantly and stop telling me being lazy, because that was the main thing about me. I was so lazy that, I didn't want to continue my education or take tests or study and do anything else. Being the commencement speaker for my graduation, being a keynote speaker for other events, and now being here at your show is so awesome. As I said, everything that I've been doing in my life and everything that it comes to me is a blessing. And as I said, I thank you so much for having me here, and especially doing what you're doing. What you're doing right now is fantastic. Like, honestly, keep it up. It's awesome.
Right on. You heard that, Terry, right? I tell you, he's the boss, man. I gotta do what he says. So, he's good people. All right. We got about 5 minutes left. We're pretty much going to end the show. And my name is Kendall Stevenson. Again, this is GenesisRadio.com. If you like what you hear, you can always pick up the phone and give us a call at 888-304-4401. And again, where can we get that information from you again? Just the telephone number so we can call you if need be.
So if you need to contact me, contact at 570-620-2850, extension number 304. Again, the number is 570-620-2850, extension number 304. And once you call the office, just ask for Deshaun.
All right. Thank you very much, young man, and peace.
Thank you.
We're out.